Good evening, guys. How are you guys doing? I hope you guys are having a great Sunday evening. We're gonna chill back, sit back, and have the podcast show tonight. And I brought on a co-host with Tara Lee, and we're gonna be having a conversation with you guys about various things in our lives and different topics that we're gonna come up with. I know you saw the titles. Obviously, going to be going back to basics, and I think I'm going to be going back to basics with this particular podcast, where we just have conversations and we really try to get to know the people on the show and try to get you guys to know you guys better in the comment section as well. So, first and foremost, Tara, how are you? Welcome to the show. I haven't spoken to you one on one in a long time, so it is
It,
really going back to basics.
it has been a really long time since we've actually had a one-on-one conversation. And it looks like I got all dressed up for this podcast. And I know it's a really chilled situation, which is why I'm on a couch. I even have a cup of coffee and all. But it's actually because I've been working like the whole day. And I was also working yesterday and the day before that. So it's been a busy weekend for me. I haven't had time to really relax and enjoy all the things that I like to enjoy over weekends. Especially, there's been a lot of sport happening and a lot of sport not happening. You and I know what I'm talking about, that Liverpool
Yeah,
versus Man United, because I'm a
yeah.
Liverpool fan and unfortunately,
Yeah.
what? What?
What? I don't know what that is. No clue what that is.
Look
Maybe just the
at
best club in the world. I
you.
don't know.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I didn't know that you were doing that. Damn it. Where's mine now? Okay, next time when we beat you, that's when
Yeah,
I'll bring it out.
unfortunately, that's how it goes. But like, what took this particular topic because that kind of falls into the same bracket of me trying to change this podcast going forward. Now, you guys are probably going to see a rotating guest on the show. Obviously, if you guys like Dora, call her to be back for more because I have to hunt her down to come on the show. Uh, but let's.
No, wait,
I want to
sorry,
talk
wait.
about.
That's putting a lot of pressure on me because, like, what if nobody likes me? Then I'm going to know because you'll never call me back onto the show.
Uh, they have to still go through me, so I'll obviously have to. I will still probably bring you on it, besides what the guys say. Is that okay with everybody else? And that will be cool. We have obviously a buy saying over here, Tara for more CFM shows. 2K21. So you have already one fan in the comment section already. So that's good from that point of view. Now let's go to. I want to talk about the basics in sport generally, but basics in cricket because I think that that's kind of currently lacking in South African cricket. When I look at the South African team, I think they're all trying to do fancy things. Maybe they're trying to do overthink things too much, and they don't want to. They don't trust their in natural instincts. Now, going back to basics doesn't necessarily always mean basics in cricket. Like obviously you get it when we all grew up and we started playing cricket. I know you didn't play maybe as a kid. Obviously you didn't play cricket as a kid, but when we were kids, you'll get taught the basics. For example, when you bowl, you need to obviously let the ball go when it's by your ear, or how to block a ball, and all those technical things. But every player is different. So when I talk about going back to basics, I'm more about going back to what made you the player that you are. So, for example, we've got a guy like Quinton de Kock. He might be overthinking things a little bit when he's in the Proteas kit. His natural game is to play a more flamboyant style of play and creativity and play the shots that suit him. But now, because of this, I think that this new brand of cricket that Mark Boucher maybe put on them kind of forces them to almost like play a certain brand of cricket that's not maybe suited to them. So I don't know what your take on the basics is, especially in sport in general, but in cricket with South Africa.
It sounds like you're trying to say that they are trying to show off in the like they're trying to do fancy stuff and they should just be who they are as how they started out as cricketers. And that's very interesting that you're saying that because I think it was maybe yesterday or sometime this weekend a friend of mine is busy talking about cricket and busy talking about how he's actually into the women's game now. And he's finding that, the women are far better than the men. And he's just enjoying that as a fan. And he said his reasons were that the men are trying to be too fancy, exactly what you're trying to say now. But his opinion about it was that it's their egos. and they're no longer just thinking about being better cricketers, but it's almost like they're trying to put on this show, whereas the women, they don't, with the men's cricket, there's a lot of politics. There's a lot of politics, and, everybody's watching them as individuals. But with the women, he was saying that it's almost like they started out with nothing, and now they're playing cricket, and they're just playing their cricket, and they're trying to be the best cricketers that they can be. And the focus is more on cricket than it is on transformation, or it is on the drama going on with Cricket South Africa. And that was his opinion, just from a layman, just from a fan watching the game. That's what he was saying. And I think a lot of people are thinking that now, maybe that's something that needs to happen. The men and the women somehow maybe need to train together, maybe need to have conversations. Maybe that needs to happen, because I don't know if it is an ego thing. I mean, that's what it looks like to others on the outside. It's always interesting to get fan opinions, because they see things without having maybe the full picture or every single piece of the puzzle, and they're maybe not watching every single game, and they're not invested in all the individual players. So they're looking at it as a whole, and this is what they're seeing. So is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, well, basically, yes. You can see that the women are doing the basics right. For example, they against Pakistan, for example, they ran between the wickets. Something that South Africans don't necessarily, the men's team hasn't really turned to. It's like you go through overs where there are a lot of dot balls, where we shouldn't be actually having that situation. Just play it around the corner for a single. Keep the game ticking over. And particularly with the bowlers, like someone like Lungi Ngidi, who I can see has been mentioned in the comments over here. Lungi started off as a seam bowler. That's how I remember him, at least. There wasn't anything about cross seam or bowling slower deliveries, back of the hand slower deliveries, or trying to do all these fancy things to get some sort of action out of it. Or it was more about just keeping it simple. And with bowlers specifically, sometimes the pitch needs to do the talking, and you need to know when to use those skills and when not to use those skills. So I still think that the basics are not lost in cricket and in any sport. I mean, for example, we can talk about plenty of other sports that we've done. For example, I know that you're hectically into martial arts, and I know you do jiu-jitsu. I did judo as well. So when we talk about martial arts, they always talk about the basics. I mean, I remember when we used to train, even when we were training with the SA team, we used to do the basic turns first before you even got into the fighting stuff. You have to warm up. You need to do your basic, we called it ochikomis, to turning in, turning out, getting those repetitions of the basics first before you actually try and do something that is completely revolutionary or improvisation. You need to have some sort of basics that you need to use. And some majority of the time, the basic things is what wins you games. I mean,
it's not all about the highlight reel.
Exactly.
It's not all about the highlight reel. I mean, whether you talk about martial arts, doing some fancy drops here, nagi, or some throw that is absolutely incredible, sometimes you just need to do the simple things, and that wins you games, and wins you matches, and wins you fights. You need to know those fundamentals and implement them. They are fundamentals for a reason. You build on top of those fundamentals. You can't achieve greatness without first having a real understanding of those fundamentals and mastering those fundamentals. Then you can play around a bit. But you also have to remember that the people that you're fighting or playing against, the cricketers you're playing against, they have the fundamentals, and they're putting in all the other work as well. So you're not just playing against, a schoolboy. So you have to up your game completely, always. You have to go back to those basics. You have to know what you're doing, and then you have to work on that. And you also, at the same time, can't just rely on talent. The most incredible sports people in the world are not just talented. They are hardworking. In fact, some of them weren't even as talented, but they worked hard every single day. Like you were saying, you were doing those drills over and over and over again. That's what wins. You going back and drilling what you should be drilling every single day for hours and hours and hours. Finding gaps and holes in your game and then working on correcting that. When you're making mistakes in matches, okay, but now you can go back and you can see, listen, this is where I messed up. And now you can find ways to correct that. And constant, like muscle memory, work that into your game as well. I mean, obviously, there are players like Cristiano Ronaldo who are talented and hardworking at the same time, and that's why he is who he is.
Yeah.
So I think that I don't know if this is the problem with Cricket South Africa as a whole. I don't know if they're allowing drama to get to their head. If I don't know if the problem is just with the coaching. I don't want to just nitpick and say that one thing is the problem. But maybe you're right about them not going back to basics, them not really going back and trying to be the cricketers that they started out as. Like if you are a wicket keeper, work on that. You know, you want to be an all-rounder. Work on that. Work on your particular skill set and not trying to be something that you're not within the setup. I don't know if that's the entire problem. Maybe you're trying to be too much as individuals, or I don't know, maybe you're trying to be the shining knight. But if you all just work together, play cricket. Think about the cricket and put the drama aside. Let the administrators think about that. And you focus on the game.
Yeah. I mean, not all players are identical. I mean, some players, certain things works for them and certain things don't. Now, when I listen to someone like Pouch, and I'm only going to be talking about my frame of reference over here, what I've experienced myself. I can't be talking about what other people think. I'm not going to be using opinions of that, just from what I've observed. So I look at a guy like Boucher talking in his press conferences, and when he was saying that he's going to teach a couple of guys certain things to add to their arsenal, I think that by the time you get to international level, your game should be, you should be comfortable with your game already. Unless you're a 19-year-old coming into a new crowd. But if you like 28, 20, 25 upwards, 24 upwards, your game should be settled by then, because that's why you were picked to play for your country. You should be at the best that you can be at that particular time. And then obviously you will improve a little bit. But to give people a whole different arsenal of shots and teach them a whole lot of different things to add to their game, to fit into a style that you're trying to play, it's not going to work. I'll use football, for example. Pep Guardiola likes the tiki-taka football that he plays, and he plays the same brand of football everywhere he goes. If a player doesn't suit into the style, doesn't mean he's not a good player, just means that he doesn't suit into the system. Then you let him go. So my problem is, instead of Boucher trying to force people into that type of system, yes, you by all means you can say that this is the philosophy I want to play. I want to play this free brand of cricket. I want to play a smart brand of cricket. I don't want to play whatever type of brand he thinks is not the right play. And you fit players into the system that suit that brand, not the other way around. You don't force players to change. And that's why I say go back to basics. So when you mentioned Cristiano Ronaldo, I've got an interesting story about that, because there was a story that I read in one of Cristiano Ronaldo's books that was written about him. And it's one of the first major ones that he has. I think it's called Moments by Cristiano Ronaldo. And it was one of those things that really got me to even like him even more as a United fan, where there was a story told about Ferguson taking the players off the field. The field was muddy and a little bit old and very muddy, and they decided to stop training because it wasn't good for the players. It also wasn't good for the pitch and for the groundsmen that need to fix the pitch if it's going to be too muddy and they mess up the whole turf. So they took everybody off the field and they said, go eat the showers. We're going to get maybe, I don't know if he said that they must train the next day earlier or whatever the case may be, but they took them off the field. And he went back into his office. Alex Ferguson went back into his office, and he kept on hearing balls going into the back of the net and hitting a pole and going back to the net. And he looks outside his window, and it's pouring with rain, and he's seeing Cristiano Ronaldo standing on the field, kicking balls, practicing his free kicks. So he opens up the window and he shouts at Cristiano, saying like, hey, come back inside. You're going to mess up the turf. It's over. You're going to hurt yourself. He says, oh, sorry, boss. And he closes the window again, and he sits down again. And then couple of minutes, 10 minutes later, he hears swishing into the back of the net again. And then he looks out on the field and he sees nobody's there. And then he looked over again a little bit further, and then he saw on the AstroTurf, Ronaldo moved over to the AstroTurf to go practice his free kicks, where the pitch, where there was no excuse, and there's no pitch to get messed up over there. So it was one of those situations where I think that certain players are driven like that, where certain
That's
other
what I'm
people
talking
aren't.
about. He was naturally talented, but he didn't just rely on that talent. He put in
Yeah,
that work.
exactly that.
When everybody else was
But then
gone,
again,
he was still working.
yeah. But then again, some things work for other players differently. For example, when I was in the Blitz training camp, I obviously saw a lot of the guys, Amala and all of them, and Quinta de Kock, and you got Magala, and all of those guys were there. Obviously, what's in Liam Livingston was in that hub as well, Mo and Ali. So I'm watching the guys train, Yanaman, George, all the guys we know, and I'm watching them train. And Quinton will come, he'll do his thing, and he doesn't do too much training that's going to exert him too much because he likes to be focused before a game. He goes into the nets, he practices a few balls, he leaves the nets, does a few keeping drills, and goes. Because he's the type of person that needs to get into a relaxing mindset. Next day he goes and he scores an 80. So what works for him, whereas you get another guy like maybe a Calvarena that will hit balls until he gets it right. There's certain guys like I know Reina van Tonde is the type of guy that practices and practices and practices like the whole day. You'll practice in the evening, you'll practice in the morning, you put up lights in the nets to practice in the evening when it's late at night and it's dark. So certain players they work differently. You can't enforce things on people. They need to go back to their own basics, and that's the thing, because cricket is a team individualistic sport in a way. So like it's a team made of a whole lot of individuals that need to perform. Like for example, Rassie van der Dussen's form is not going to necessarily influence Quinton de Kock's form. It's not like it's directly related. Whereas in football, if Pogba's having a great game or Salah's having a great game, he can maybe set up Mane and get Mane's confidence back up if he has been in a goal drought.
Yeah.
They are interlinked sometimes.
It's both team sports, but I hear you.
Yeah, they're both team sports, but in a different way. So it's very important when it comes to that. I mean, maybe in a martial arts, that's maybe a good thing. I know you do jiu-jitsu, of course. You started a lot later.
You started judo as a child, so very different. And a lot of Brazilian jiu-jitsu competitors also started younger, especially internationally. So around the world, a lot of female competitors started maybe younger or as children. I didn't. I did start later in life. In my 20s is when I started jiu-jitsu. And I have to work much harder, obviously, because, I didn't start as a child. My muscles weren't used to those movements, and it's difficult. So I do have to drill. I do have to put in the hours. I do have to work on my fitness. It's a lot of work that goes into it. Although I must say, it's never too late to start anything. That's the message that I like to share. It's never too late. Whether you're starting as a young child or as an older individual, because there are older fighters who started later in life and they are world champions. So that's a thing. I know judo is very hard on the body, and that's what you did as a child, because it's hard throws. I feel like when I practice judo, because I do try and incorporate judo into my game, I'm not very good at throws, and I'm more of a guard puller. I like to take it to my back. I'm very strong on my back because I like to attack legs. I'm a smaller person, and legs is an equalizer. And that's another thing. I'm also one of the smallest people, if not the smallest person in my jiu-jitsu gym. So everybody I spar with is also a lot bigger. And if I'm going to relate it to cricket, it's true. Other people's journey and other people's training schedules, very different. Some people don't have to train as hard, and they are smashing it. They are killing it out there in MMA and, of course, in jiu-jitsu competitions on the mat. For me, it's not the same story. And also, it's terrifying. And which is probably the same thing for many football, cricketers, tennis players, rugby players. For me personally, it's terrifying getting onto that mat and fighting in competitions. I actually feel like so much nerves. I'm like, what is even happening? Why did I decide to put myself in this situation? And I'm sure that a lot of sports people do feel that nerves. Some people are just naturally confident. So yes, I understand that everybody is individual and you need to understand what works for you. And maybe the problem is that some people don't know what works for them. They're not sure. And maybe that's where your coach comes in. That's where your mentors come in. They see what you do not see. And I feel like there needs to obviously be that input. It's not just an individual thing. There's a reason why you have a coach, because that coach comes in and he gives you advice or she gives you advice. They are your mentors. They help you. They try and correct things that are wrong. That's the whole point. Or else you may as well just be doing your own thing.
Exactly. And that's why I say Boucher has more of a responsibility from a mental coach perspective, by influencing kids and showing them what they need to do, or not kids, but these players in a positive way. He needs to be more of a mental coach than an actual technical coach. And I think that's where he's maybe lacking, is that, for example, when I look at a guy like Shukri Conrad with the under 19 level, and I heard how he was speaking, he's like, it's under 19 for a reason. They made national colors in their junior divisions for a reason. That means they can play cricket. I mean, they know the basics. They can play the sport. It's not that they can't play cricket. The reason they're playing for their national side and for franchises and for provincial sides is because they can play the game. What I need to show them is the things that they maybe haven't learned from their coaches, the experiences that they haven't got picked up. Like sometimes Sir Alex Ferguson, what made him such a great manager, same with Klopp. I don't think that they are standing there showing them how to pass a ball and dribble a ball and shoot it into the top right-hand corner. It's more about how to get the best out of the players and how to motivate them. And that's so important. And when Quinton de Kock was going through the mental blockage that he was going through and the mental struggles that he was going through, Boucher just had to say, look here, Quinton, go back to your basics, trust your game. Just focus on what makes you the player that you are. It shouldn't be, oh no, maybe try to do a sweep shot when you're playing the spinners, or maybe try to double step it and do this, or try to revert Billy scoop it. Or I think it's more about just trusting your own game.
I would like to know what the new things Boucher is teaching, though. That's what I would like to know.
Yeah, I really want to know that too.
It's very confusing for me. I really can't see what his plan is. And you speak about coaches, and you mentioned Ferguson, and you mentioned Klopp. It's also about the culture that you build within the team. The team needs to feel like a team. And for some reason, I'm not feeling that right now at the Proteas, or at least with the Proteas men.
In that England series, remember the English series was here at Newlands?
Yes.
The time when they were at Newlands, because they played the ODIs, I think shortly after that at Newlands first, I could distinctly feel a difference when I walked out there. I was around because I went to I went to majority. I think I went to PE, I went to Joburg, and I went to Cape Town for the tests, right? And then I didn't go for the ODIs though, but I went for majority of the tests. I think I just missed Centurion. But when I went to the training camps and standing around the team when they were playing the test matches, there was this weird feeling around the camp. As soon as they moved over into the ODIs, there was a complete shift. It was happy. There were a lot of people that were more, I don't know, there was more energy in the team. It was a different, fresh, new feel, and you could feel the energy around you. I mean, obviously, when you're losing matches, naturally that's going to happen to you. You're going to feel the worry. I mean, I don't know how you were, what type of fighter you are, but I was very hard on myself. Like, I hated losing. And when I lost, before a match, for example, you can't talk to me. Like, I'm on my own. I'm standing on my own, focused. Nobody can talk to me. Like, afterwards, if I lost, you're not going to see me for the rest of the day. Like,
Did you cry a bit? Did you cry a bit after you lost?
There was one particular, I'm not going to lie, but there was one particular match where I did cry, when I was completely cheated out of a match that really destroyed me because, anyway, I was it was something that I got cheated out of necessarily, ultimately, and there's a whole long story about that. Then and that I was about, I think, 14, 15, and I did
you
grow
were
into that game.
you were young. I mean, if you didn't cry, wow.
Well, then it doesn't mean anything to the amount of people that I've seen cry in rugby games. In rugby games, we played rugby against Bishops, against Sacks. Those games meant a lot to you. If you lose, the guys used to cry if they lost. You could see first team players. I mean, there's so many sportsmen. I don't think there should be a certain stigma with that. It just means I think that certain people.
I cried last year when I dislocated my pelvis.
That's painful. That must have been painful.
But I didn't cry because of the pain. I was like, damn, why this? And now I'm not strong. It was a lot. The pain.
I actually remember it. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that. I mean, we met up after that and you were so disappointed. I can remember that. How disappointed you were that you couldn't fight. It wasn't about pain necessarily.
So I still fought, by the way. I did still fight. And I lost. Because I couldn't maneuver underneath my opponent. I couldn't. I thought I could, but I couldn't. Mm-hmm. I said to myself in my mind, I can do this. With a dislocation, I can do it. But I couldn't. So it was like a struggle within myself.
Mistake I made too.
Sometimes we're just too stubborn for our own good.
Yeah, I sprained my wrist once in the semi-final.
Yeah.
And the doctors, the physios all said that I should stop, don't fight. It's fine. This forfeit the match. And I was like, not a chance am I forfeiting this match. And then in the end, I finished the match. I won the fight. But at the end of the day, I ended up with a bronze because it was the bronze medal fight. So I ended up with a bronze, but what ended up happening is I was out for longer. So I had to miss a ranking event because of that as a result. So in the end, sometimes those sacrifices, you need to know when to make those sacrifices and when not to, when it's smart enough for you to do it and when it's not to. So yeah, sometimes it's being tough on yourself.
We are
importance of a coach.
Enemies. Are you saying you should blame our coaches? Yes,
no,
you're right.
It's the importance of having a coach to tell you, look here, don't fight. You need to sit out.
So what happened to your coach, man? Why isn't your coach saying, listen, calm down?
So for that particular match, my coach said her daughter was fighting, I think, at the same time. So for that particular match, she told me not to fight. And I went against, and she said, this is going to happen to me. So I was stubborn and I went on and I fought, and that ended up happening to me. So in that particular, that's why I'm saying importance of a good coach to give you that guidance and tell you that. The time after that, when I got concussed, I listened to her, because if I didn't listen to her, that's a whole different story. So having a good coach is so important, that understands you and understands you as a person and as a player, not only as a player, but also as an individual. What makes you tick, where your weaknesses are, etc. So all of those type of things.
You talking about our personal journeys and with coaches really kind of brings home what could be the problem at the Proteas.
Yeah, maybe they should do some jiu-jitsu and judo.
They can do some wrestling. I look forward to it. Definitely come and train. Come and train.
At least we know Timbas can do a drop nage, and we have no problems getting under the guys. You'll be a little menace on the mat.
Yeah, you know what? Size doesn't matter. Look at me. I can take you on, Khalid. I think maybe for one of these live shows, we should actually maybe fight.
Look at you. And that's what some of the guys were saying in the comment section.
I just miss choking people out, man.
There was one time that happened to me, right? I don't like tapping. I don't think I've ever tapped in a match, and because I used to train myself in training to not tap. So I'll try what's it called, conditioning, basically for chokes. So I'll let people choke me until I'm almost out, and then to see where my threshold is. And every single time I'll try to push my limits and try to go longer and longer and longer and longer. Like they'll choke me until I'm out. And only afterwards I heard that if you do that, you'll lose a couple of brain cells. Now you guys know why I'm so daft, because
Yeah, how
that's
do you train yourself not to tap? What?
like I didn't.
Why not just train your defense? Like if your defense is good, you're not going to get choked out. I've never been choked out, ever.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, but remember, judo is different to jiu-jitsu.
I know.
So
Do you do a lot of newaza on ground fighting?
We do a lot of newaza, but when in judo, for example, you're only allowed to try and get the person on. You see, it's different because you only have a certain amount of time on the ground. Then you must stand up again. It's a standing game. So when you get the person down onto the ground, you have like 5 seconds to get the person onto their back, or try to get a choke on, or try to get a strangle on. So you don't have much time to get it. No, it's not like MMA when you go to the ground, you can sit there for the entire round and try to get a choke. This is like you get 5 seconds, you stand up again, you start again.
Is it only 5 seconds, or is it 30 seconds?
No, it's not 30 seconds. It's a lot shorter than that. I think it's 15,
okay.
10 seconds, I think it's something like that.
Because I mean, it takes 5 seconds for you to lose consciousness. So
yeah, but I mean, I never got caught into those positions. But if I did, at least I must know that I'll be able to handle myself. It's like when you do.
I'll test that theory.
It's like when you do judo. Well, I haven't done judo in like years now, so I probably lost all of that ability. It's like when you're swimming underwater, to hold your breath underwater. You can train yourself to hold your breath underwater longer. You just push your limits. You push your limits, and that's important for that. That's why I love, I wanted to talk about this with you, because like why I like anime so much, and particularly Naruto, talking about basics and talking about just creativity in general. Basics are so important. When you do something simple things work. Naruto is a very simple plot. It has complex storylines around it, but the plot is very basic. It's about a boy that went through struggle, that was isolated from the rest of the people, and to fight for their
he just wanted to be recognized.
Yes, and he wanted to fight for acceptance, and that's the basic plan. And majority of the storylines revolve around that, people wanting to be accepted in different avenues. So even with him, like he'd learn how to be super strong and learn all of these things. And I know this is not real, but it's still, the lessons still come through. Even though they go through all of those lessons, and he learns all Rasengan, and he learns so multiple other things, he still goes back to his clones. Majority of the time, the clones is what
exactly the very first thing from that very first episode. It was episode 1, wasn't it?
Exactly.
And don't tell me Naruto isn't real. It's so real. I apply it to my daily life. Naruto, I apply to my daily life. I'm actually Naruto in my life. I'm Naruto. I will one day be Hokage, and Khalid, you will recognize me. I don't know which character you are, but I'm definitely Naruto.
I'm a big Sasuke fan. I've always liked Sasuke from the start.
I knew you were going to say you were in Uchiha. By the way, did you know that Naruto's grandfather was in Uchiha?
Yes, I did know that.
Okay, awesome. Yes. So I have some hidden Sharingan powers.
I think it's excellent the way they did that show. Like, it's still one of the, like, I know Dragon Ball Z is like the stock for everybody. Everybody probably got into anime with Dragon Ball Z. I just watched Dragon Ball Super.
Dragon Ball Z was on SABC2, local TV, that you didn't have to pay for. That's why. So you could come home from school and it was standby for Dragon Ball Z. That's what happened.
Previously on Dragon Ball Z. But even in that, like, that started in like 1980 something. Like when Dragon Ball Z originally came out, it was like I think the Dragon Ball series, because obviously I don't know how many people know how the order happens, but there's Dragon Ball where Goku was a kid and had a monkey tail, and then with Bulma and when she was younger, and then there was Dragon Ball Z, and then there was GT, but GT wasn't with the same creators, so it's like an alternate line wherever. It's just actually a dumb storyline. The only cool thing about that was really Super Saiyan 4. And then this
Dragon Ball. Why was the only brown guy Mr. Popo?
I don't know why they did that. There are
Again,
some
I
questionable
don't
things.
understand.
There
Yeah, there was
were
a lot
some
of
questionable things.
questionable things.
Like Master Roshi was questionable too.
Oh my gosh.
Like, and then you got Dragon Ball Super, which is the current thing. So it's a continuation, 25 years after Dragon Ball Z. So even in that show, talking about basics again, I know I'm coming back to but even that, Goku still goes back to his Kamehameha every single time. Like instant transmission every single time. He goes back to his basic form. Even when he becomes a super, I don't know, spoiler alert, guys. But even when you go when he becomes a Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan God, he goes to his Kaioken to get, which is something that he learned under Master Roshi to make his power to go greater, to get stronger. So basics are so important. What you need to remember, you need to come back to that. And again, I think obviously Naruto is 100 times better than Dragon Ball Z in my opinion.
Of course,
I
1,000 times better.
Yeah, so there we go. And even in that, like I said, he goes back to basics even in there. So
Yeah, I think we were even saying that Harry Potter, like when he defeated Voldemort in the end there, he used Expelliarmus. That was like the first
exactly,
spell you learned at 11 years old when you went to Hogwarts. Yeah, I mean, he learned a bunch of stuff, but that's what he used. And that
exactly.
defeated Voldemort, he who must not be named.
And
The legends are there.
in everything, like in movies, when people become too complicated and they go off a storyline, it messes up a movie when they can just keep things basic. It's my it's like my criticism of most movies and everything. And I'm a big movie fan. I think you know that as well. I mean, we speak about it too.
Yeah.
But I use an example of Mad Max Fury Road. Now, a lot of people might not be a massive fan of Mad Max Fury Road, but what I thought was brilliant about Mad Max Fury, the latest one, obviously, with Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron, is that he kept it very basic. It was a desert, a basic storyline. There's a desert with there's especially, and he didn't use much special effects. He used a lot of what's the word now that I'm looking for? Practical effects, and he went back to the basics. He just went to proper filmmaking, and the entire show is just in a desert. We're going from one destination to a next destination, and it kept you gripped, and it kept you at the edge of your seat through entire movie. I think for the first 15 minutes, I literally almost didn't like. I hardly took in deep breaths, man. Like I had to take a massive gasp at the end of that first 15 minutes opening
I'm
scene.
just taking your word for this because I didn't actually watch this.
So that's the type of movie that you need to watch on a big screen. So I don't know if it will be the same effect if you watch it now.
Yeah, I feel like you're talking this up and then I'm going to watch it and be really disappointed.
I think that it's something that you needed to watch in the big screen. It's not going to be the same when you watch it on TV.
So the moment's passed now. The moment has passed for me to watch
it's still one of the best action films of all time, in my opinion. So that's one of the things that I think. When I look at a movie like Star Wars, for example,
also something I've never watched. Star Wars.
Can't believe you haven't watched Star Wars.
I
but
know,
anyway,
I'm probably the only person, but I've never watched. It's too late for me to watch Star Wars.
You see, Star Wars started off with practical effects back in the day, the original trilogy. And then they went into CGI.
Yes. Like plastic props and stuff.
It wasn't plastic. Come on now. when they created episode 1, 2, and 3, Tara, they went to CGI, and people were so disappointed. And then when they came back to the newer stuff, when they went back to the latest one, Force Awakens, they went back to practical effects again. So shows you going back to the basics of what made Star Wars what it was back then. It works. So
I don't know. Star Wars, you see, because everybody when I was younger was watching Star Wars, and I was like, I'm gonna be different. I'm not gonna watch that Star Wars.
So what did you watch?
Kabikushi Kabiyam.
That's the only Bollywood movie I've ever watched in my life.
Oh really? What about Kuch Kuch Hota? You never watched anything
Nothing
else?
Nothing else.
Like every day when I came home from school, that's what I watched because my parents didn't really want me to watch Disney stuff. I was only allowed to watch, I think, Pocahontas. That was it. That was the only Disney thing I was allowed to watch. I don't know why. They didn't like the messages that were told. So instead, I had to watch Bollywood movies that made me cry every day.
Nah, I can't watch a Bollywood movie. The acting is way too bad for me. Yeah, someone Ravi's actually asked you in the comment section. Have you watched?
Did I watch
Kuch
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 Hota
Hota Hai?
Hai?
Yes, I did. I did watch that. I did.
However you
It's a
want to
lovely
pronounce it.
story. Well, okay, actually, it's not that lovely. Like, it's about somebody being friend zoned, and then only after that person's partner dies does he realize, okay, I can actually be with my friend. It's very weird.
Yes,
But at the time, it was a lovely
Wait,
story.
the Babali says you'd rather watch the Cobra struggle to win a phone than actually watch Star Wars. Oh, that's hilarious.
I think that was him on that.
Oh, Lord. Dex, I haven't watched Vikings yet. I want to start it because I get into these rabbit holes when it comes to series, where I just go down and I become like loyal to a series and I watch it. So Game of Thrones was my series back then. So Vikings came out around about when Game of Thrones was like becoming a big hit. So I focused all my energy on Game of Thrones. There's an example of not trusting the basics in Game of Thrones, the last
There's
season.
a very good example. Like, I loved Game of Thrones, and then the last season just ruined it for me entirely. I feel like I wasted years of my life investing in Game of Thrones. I even read the books, and I was like, what is even happening? I was very disappointed with George R. Martin and all of that.
Now, this is Zubair is one of my closest friends. We went to school together, high school together, so I know him for a very long time. And I didn't watch Lagan. I know you've been telling me, yeah, I know you've been telling me for years to watch Lagan, and I still haven't watched Lagan. So I think I need to get hold of it and watch that.
Did you at least watch Dev Does? Such a beautiful.
No, I told you the only movie I watched from start to finish is that Kapikuchi one. With Shah Rukh Khan.
And you haven't watched anything recent. You haven't watched anything recent. None of the superhero movies.
No, please, the Doom stuff. No.
I love it. Nobody does it like an Indian superhero.
The day they get one in Marvel. Oh my lord, I don't know what's gonna happen. I think DC will be the first one to do an Indian superhero. Ravi, what do you think about that one? Let me know about that.
Let me just tell you a funny story. So I once auditioned for this Indian series and I got the part. And I was so excited because I was like, I looked at the first few pages and I'm like, it is a lot of talking, a lot of dialogue for me. This is fantastic. And then I died in the first episode, and all that dialogue I was in a car crash, and all that dialogue happened while the car was rolling and I was dying. So literally, the car crashes and is rolling in slow motion for like an hour. And in that time, I was like, I'm just thinking about my family, what's happening. Obviously, a lot more dramatic than that because I'm dying. And I was thinking about how am I going to provide? What's going to happen? What's going on? All the people I'm leaving behind. All of that for like an hour. I was so disappointed. And then the series continued. The series was about me, but I was dead.
So Tara, where can we see you die? I also want to see you die. Where can I see you die?
Yeah, I'm going to send you a private link.
Okay, awesome. I want to see this. I haven't seen you act yet. Something that I really want to see, of course. So, I mean, talking about anything, what are you currently watching? What is the series that you're currently watching? I'm currently watching The Blacklist, something that I got really caught into.
I love The Blacklist, or at least I love the beginning of The Blacklist. And then it just gets a bit too much and it loses. No, sorry, I'm spoiling it for you. Yeah, it's a good series.
I've watched it all. I'm on season 8.
Oh, you've watched it all. So you get where I'm coming from here. It got too complicated.
I think in season 5 or 6, it started to get a little bit hectic, and then grade seven started getting better, and I think 8 is a little bit. We're kind of waiting for it to end. So yeah, it's one of those type of things. But what is something that you?
If you're asking me what I'm watching, I don't even know what I'm watching. It's like I haven't really made the time to sit down and watch a new series. What I do is sometimes put on documentaries in the background. Like I was watching this documentary about Hitler, it's on Netflix. But then that makes me angry halfway through. And then I want to sit and think about all the history and stuff. But I've been watching documentaries, and I watched that documentary about the oceans that's on Netflix now.
Mhm.
And speaking of the oceans, did you watch My Octopus Teacher? Because I couldn't
No,
actually get through it.
I never watched it yet, and it won an Oscar.
I don't think I should actually
Yeah.
give my opinion on this at all. I'm
I
gonna get a
haven't,
lot of hate mail. Yeah,
yeah,
let
I
me
haven't
just
watched
move
it yet.
on
Let me
from
watch it
this.
first.
Yeah, let me just move on from that. What I have been playing in the background to put me to sleep is The Circle.
What?
It's mindless nonsense about social media, and I'm sleeping halfway through. So
It's almost like a
I
Love
must.
Island buzz, or what?
I've never watched Love Island. I don't usually watch reality television,
Me neither.
but
But when I heard
this,
there's a South African version, I wanted to see. Uh,
that got a lot of hate. There was
I wanted
no
to see.
transformation in the first episode.
Yeah, I wanted to see a Halima come in here and like come.
No, you're right.
Like I wanted to
the
see
mistake-
some draw. That's what I thought I was gonna get because it's in
I
Cape
haven't
Town.
watched it, but from what I've read, I think the mistake that they made is that their first few episodes didn't really represent the demographic of the South Africa we know. And I think that
Yeah.
was the problem. So obviously it was going to get a hate. I mean, this is a country where that wasn't quite the depiction of the majority of what the country looks like. I feel like we're talking about sport again.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I mean, everything relates to sport. That's the great thing. Like Mr. Graham October
100%.
always says. There's like Mr. Graham October
100%.
says. He says that cricket teaches you the lessons that life teaches you, and it's vice versa. Everything is interrelatable. So yeah, that's obviously a whole debate and a whole conversation for another day. But yeah, we spoke about a lot of things today, guys, and the main aspect was obviously about basics and maybe the Proteas going back to their basics and to the things that made them good cricketers individually, and trusting their basics first and foremost before they try and do anything else. I think the players are good enough if they focus on doing the things that made them special, that our players will be able to get that form back again. I mean, the way Faf du Plessis is playing in the IPL, for example, is proving that he's just trusting his game, he's trusting his partner on the other end, and he's racking up the runs. And we see that often. You don't need to play fancy shots.
Do you think he's not allowed to do that in the Proteas? Or do you think he's also being taught new tricks?
The problem with Faf is we haven't seen Faf since Boucher in the Proteas T20 setup. So we haven't really seen him play a lot of white ball cricket since Boucher was in charge. So that's the problem over here.
Okay.
And that's oh yeah. So Ashit wants to know over here. He says Ravi, Abai, Khalid, Tara. I don't. So I don't watch Bollywood movies. So you can't ask me this question. Do you guys know Hindi or you watch dub movies of these? Tara,
To
you
be
can
honest,
answer for you.
I do watch dub, but I have watched a few. Sorry, no, what am I saying? I don't watch dubbed. Why did I just say that? And I said that so comfortably. Sorry, I never watched dubbed. What I was trying to say is that I always watch with subtitles. That's what I was saying. I have watched like one or two. Ladies versus Ricky Ball. I watched that movie without subtitles. That's with Virat Kohli's wife. That movie.
Lord. Yeah, we've seen Lubabala says, who is this Boucher guy you speak of?
This is a good question. Who is this Boucher guy? Because I don't even know anymore.
Yeah, so guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I think this podcast show is going to be like this. So if you guys are not liking it, I think that we want to be able to target this at a market at all guys that are not only cricket lovers, because I mean ultimately cricket fans are not only cricket fans. They like a lot of other things, and if they can relate with us, it will be a lot better. And with the guests that I bring on the show. So we'll be talking about cricket, yes, but we'll also be talking about other things. And I think that this went pretty well. And I really enjoyed my conversation with you, Tara, today. Guys out there, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you're new and click that notification bell for all future videos. We would like to get a lot more people, obviously, on the show. And so tune in for more episodes of this, because the podcast show on a Sunday, you guys get enough cricket from me and from my guests. I mean, from my panelists as well, because we have a daily show that runs through the whole week from Monday to Friday. At 6 o'clock, it's going to be at 6 o'clock. I think the Friday show we'll maybe have a panel show where we bring like a couple of guys on, and we maybe make that one a little bit later for the people so that more South Africans can obviously watch it, because it's very important that we look after our South African fans, because it's primarily a South African channel. And we have the Offside Maiden show on a Thursday, where obviously Todd is the host of that show. So it's awesome to be able to have that type of aspect and see a different light in cricket completely. And they open up my mind every single week when I watch it, and I really enjoy producing that show. So please tune in for that as well. But we want to make our Sunday podcast for everybody. So please help make people inclusive in the chat. Don't try to isolate people. Don't try to fight with the guys. Ah shit, we've cancelled the Square Leg Gully show. The Square Leg Gully show was only supposed to be run during the period of COVID at the beginning. Because Joey Razin is a comedian, a celebrity, it's very difficult, obviously, for all of us to come together and find time in our schedule on top of all the other videos that I'm bringing to you. So I'll have to sacrifice, obviously, daily shows, etc., to bring back the Square Leg Gully show, and it's very difficult for me to find syncing with all the guys that are on it. So that show is not going to be around until maybe another break in cricket happens. I think that's a nice show to have when there's no cricket and there's an off season. I forgot about Ravi's super chat. I need to go back for that. Thank you, Werner, for responding. I need to just find it quickly. It should pop up in the comments. Tara, I don't know if you see it over there. Where is it? I'm just trying to look for it. Ravi, if you can just repeat the question. Not obviously, don't repeat the super chat, but if you can just repeat the question again, that would be excellent, so that I can ask it out, because I can't find your super chat right now. If you can just help me out with that. I can try to look at it from my phone as well. Let me see if I can find it over here. Nope. The super chat completely disappeared. So Ravi, please, if you can ask me just if you can just repeat it once again in the section, and then we can obviously get into that as well. Just gonna add.
I'm so sorry.
Your laptop died.
My laptop died, and now I'm on my cell phone, and this is such a weird look. Actually, I can't even hear anything on this. Let me just take this off. What was the thing?
So the super chat was for you, and he says, Tara Lee, can the Proteas men win the World Cup?
Wow. Realistically, this one, I don't see it unless there's some sort of miracle that happens. I mean, obviously, anything is always a possibility, but we don't even know what it's going to look like. So for me, can they? The question was, can they? Not will they. Can they? Is it a possibility? Was that his question, Khalid?
Yep. Can the Proteas, can they win it? Is the question.
I don't want to say yes.
I think
I really don't want to say yes. Of
at
course,
the moment, like we entering this World Cup, don't you think we're entering this World Cup as underdogs?
Of course. Of course we're entering as underdogs. I feel like we're going to be entering as underdogs for a long time, but I mean, like, we're definitely entering as underdogs. Is it a possibility with the current team? But what current team? The team that we've been seeing playing now, or the team that is filled with players that may or may not be included?
There's a
feel like-
question back to you guys.
No, because the thing is, I don't know. We think we know, and then something happens. We think we
Yeah.
know that we know what the team is going to look like. Like we thought we knew what the domestic setup was going to look like, and then there's a lot of players coming out of the woodwork. And I mean, I think I just saw the other day talk about Amla now strutting his stuff after his double century. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. So if we add what we think are the best players that South Africa has to offer, I need to see them at least play one match or one series together.
I agree.
Because Khalid, you were talking earlier about how you just felt a difference in the team, just the energy. That also counts for a lot. They need to be able to come together, and there needs to be this amazing culture. We have amazing players. Look how fantastic they are doing right now in the IPL. They are the top players in the IPL.
I think this team can win the World Cup.
You think so?
100%.
I'm looking at it now.
I think they can. The Cock Faf opening, Bavuma, Rassi,
No, definitely.
AB, Muller, Linda Morris, Rabada, Nokia.
Yeah, the most expensive player.
I think they can definitely. Thanks a lot, Dix, for the super chat. Is there a question with it? Are you going to bring a question with it? We don't know why Morris is not playing for South Africa. We have no clue. There's
That's because he's too expensive now.
Imagine that. You're earning way more than you can earn for your country. It's insane the way contracts are working.
I know, it's very true. It's very true. You are earning way more than you can earn for your country. But I'm sure that he wants to play for his country.
That is true. But anyway, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Thanks a lot, Tara, for coming on the show. We'll chat to you guys very, very soon. We've got a daily show tomorrow, and we'll keep it up and keep up the support and keep subscribing and liking and sharing and commenting and doing all of those things. Follow us on social media, DM us there if you want some new ideas, you want to give us new ideas. Obviously, join our Patron. You can give us ideas there too. Every single money that you donate to us over there or contribute towards us will help us take things to the next level, of course. So please help us over there by becoming a patron. And in the super chat, get involved in the super chat here and on the square leg, and on the Offside Maiden show. Thanks a lot for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow with the daily show. Take care and enjoy the rest of your evening.